All right, so before I go into exercise 2, I'm going to go into what I forgot to mention for exercise 1, which is the char right here. So it's really simple to print a single character out, and to initialize the value, you're just going to go, and this is the previous program I had from the previous video. So I've typed in char here, stands for character. And so we're going to set a single character. We're going to name it letter, okay? And we're going to set it equal to some sort of letter, any letter you want. It can only be one character, though. So we can set it equal to H, for instance. However, when you're going to set or initialize a character, you want to put single quotes around it. And this is going to tell the program that that is the character we want to initialize as our letter. So I've put single quotes around the H. And so if I go down here, and I'll make it separate so you guys can see what I'm working on, and make a printf statement, and we're going to say, we're just going to do letter, and %C for a character. We'll do a line feed. And we're going to type in letter, and that is going to print out our H. So I'm going to really quickly compile this. Okay, and then we're going to run it, and you can see here we have letter H. Hold on one sec. I'm just going to do a line feed right here so you can see that better. So what I just put in here was a \n. So that's going to be a line feed after my last print statement before I print out the letter. So I'll do compile and run that. And now we have letter on its own line. Okay, and see, you can see the H there. So let me explain this real quick, just in detail. So we've got our printf statement, okay, and then here we've got quotations around what we want to be printed. So I'm going to explain the identifier here. So this % symbol, think of it like when the program or the compiler looks at this, it says, okay, I see this %sign. So the next character after it is going to tell me what I want to do with that. So for instance, up here I have a D, %D. So it's saying, okay, let's look at the next character. So it says, look at D. D tells me I want an integer value to be printed out right here, okay? So same thing here, I want a character value to be printed out right here, and that's what I've got here with letter. So I tell it I want a character value printed out, and then I tell it which character I want printed out, which is letter. Okay, so let me move on to exercise 2. So I'm going to delete all this. Okay, so for exercise 2, she wants us to print out the size of float, double, and char, similar to the example above. And so the example above, she goes in and prints the size of an integer, and then she has here integer type, but she clarifies here that the integer types are int for integer, and then float for a float type, double for double, and then char for a char type. So we only need to print out the size of function for float, double, and char. So in my program, I'm going to do a print statement, and we're going to say float has a size of %d bytes. Cool. Then we're going to do \n for a line feed, and we're going to do size of function. Make sure you put your parentheses there, and then we'll do size of float. And I'm just going to copy this line so we don't have to type it again. I'm going to copy it right here. So float, now we're going to do double. And when double is said, you can think of it as double float because that's essentially what it is. You're just getting you're getting more precision with double compared to float past the decimal. So we've got that there. Then I'm going to copy and paste this again. And now we're going to do char for character. So char has a size of %d bytes and size of char. Cool. So we're going to compile this. Okay. Now we're going to run it. And you can see we say float has a size of 4 bytes, double has a size of 8 bytes, char has a size of 1 byte. Because char is only one character position. So that is correct. And real quick about the identifiers here. I explained earlier kind of what these did. And the reason you don't need to worry about doing like %LD or %F for float is because what's being printed out isn't an actual float. What is being printed out is just an integer, because the size of our float is 4 bytes. So 4 is simply an integer. So that's why we're having it print out %d corresponding to an integer. Because once this sizeof function takes an action on whatever is inside here, it's spitting out an integer value. It's not spitting out. So that's why, like here, the size of char is not A, it's not B. The size of char is just 1, even though char refers to character values. So that's really quick kind of why you just do %d for those. So that's exercise 2, pretty simple.